Hello everybody! Today I'm going to try to make a modest DIY Powerwall in the cabinet behind me using these lithium titanate LTO cells. So here we go. For those of you who've been watching the channel for a while, you might recognize the cabinet behind me. This is where I built my first DIY Powerwall. I used Chevy Volt cells for it. I had to sell those cells in order to help pay for the lithium iron phosphate batteries, which are just over there. Now, I was able to snag a few of these LTO cells from Battery Hookup before they sold out. And I am sorry that they sold out just so darn fast. The owner of Battery Hookup said that he is trying to get some more of these in because they're so popular. So hopefully we'll be able to see that coming up. The cabinet is elevated a little bit because I wanted it kind of out of reach of my daughter, and eventually when I put some more batteries in here, I will be putting a cover on the front. I want to keep her hands out of it. Here's one of the LTO batteries with the cover off. This is 8 cells in series. Now I took some angled steel brackets and I screwed them to the wall at the right height, so check this out. Right there. It's actually being held in by friction right now, but I will be adding some additional screws later on in the build. But this is where it's going to go. But I actually am going to have 2 rows. So I'm going to have an upper row and a lower row. So I need to add a couple more of these steel brackets. These LTO modules are 8 cells in series. So if I series 3 modules together, I would get 24 cells in series. This can work for a lot of people, but it's a little bit higher than what I want. I would prefer 22S or 22 cells in series. So on one of the modules, I'm going to cut the cell tab between cell number 6 and cell number 7. This is going to separate it into 6S and 2S. That way I can take the 6 cells and series connect them with 2 other full modules, getting 22 cells total. I have to first drill the hole so that I can then attach a little copper bar to them. So I'm going to use a little copper bar and go up to one of the spare screws. The spare screw is actually from holding down the PCB board that I've removed. Okay, I think we got this to the point that I'm happy with. So, I'm going to take this little piece of copper here, put it right there, and now I have a little copper rivet. So I'm going to put the copper rivet in, and hopefully not short anything out and cause an explosion. There we go. Okay, so now we have the copper rivet in, and now this screw can go on here. And I'll be putting that screw in when I get the wire in place. But now we'll be able to pull off from that tab and not have it connect to this side. So we've split the 2 halves. So while they're tight together, I can still lift off individual lids, which is very nice, that the lids don't get bound up when they're pressed together. I'm going to use this threaded rod, and we'll go all the way through these holes in the module, and I'll add this little piece of angle and put it on like this. I'll probably cut a new one to line up the holes better. modules. I wasn't really happy with the look of them up against the battery. So then I had this old metal bed frame that I picked up from the side of the road, and here's a piece of it, and it cut fine, but when I was trying to drill this hole over here, I burned out 2 drill bits with it. It's like a hard metal or something, I don't know, but the bed frame I couldn't drill it. I ruined a couple of drill bits trying. So I think I'll switch over to this piece of aluminum angle. That'll be easier to drill, but I'm probably stressing the details too much. I wanted it to look good. Almost. Nice. Nice. Isn't that cool? Picking up the whole thing as one big module. That's awesome. And I drilled a couple of extra holes in here so I can drop these large headlock screws through and screw them to the plywood. So that's pretty cool. Going to be coming off. And the goal here, I need to go 8 cells on here to 8 cells on here, and then finally to 6 more on this module. And 2 of the cells will be hanging off and be extra. I went ahead and bought a bunch of BMSs for this. I actually purchased a few of them. These BMSs are 22S. They're specifically for LTO chemistry. They're from Dali brand. They have a discharge current of 60 amps and a charge current of 50 amps. It was actually a very quick and easy transaction. It was only about 3 emails total. I emailed them and said, hey, I want a 22S LTO with 60 amp. Can you do it? They emailed back and said, yes, and here's the contract. And they gave me their account number or something in PayPal. And I just immediately sent them the money. And then like an hour later, they sent me an email and said, okay, we got the money, cool. And then I had these in my mailbox 8 days later. I couldn't believe it. 8 days. Like, how did they pull that off? That was amazing. These wound up costing $45 each after shipping and duties or whatever. But the grand total was $45 a piece. So it was too bad that you can't just click a button and order it from AliExpress. You do have to email them, but they can make it for you, and they make them quick. So there you go. So these are 22S, so they split the wiring harness here into 2 pieces. So we have a bigger one and a smaller one. This has the negative. So I'm about to go wire this up. Now over here we're going to have 1, 2, 3 modules. So these modules are just going to be a solid 8S. This module is the one that I'm going to split apart. Now it doesn't matter if I start the negative over here or if I start the negative over here on this side, but I'd rather have the BMS right here. It just worked out that these 2 lids kind of have a high point here and here, so I can fit the BMS in between them. And so I think what I'm going to do is put the negative on this side. So I marked out where the negative is, and this wiring harness, this bigger one, has the black wire on it, so that's the main negative wire. So I'm going to have 6 cells in here, but with a negative, that means I'm going to have 7 wires go into this module. What are we doing? I'm wiring these up, and I just realized I made a mistake. Over here, I have a main negative, and then every other wire is on a positive.
Then on this one, what I did was I started here at the main negative. Well, actually, that's going to be the same thing as the last positive cell. And there's going to be a jumper wire from this pack to this pack. So what I should have actually done is move this sense lead to this one. And this sense lead needs to be moved here, and this one over here, all the way down the line. So I caught it right here at this second to last one. And I realized when I was counting my wires coming through here, and I saw that I had 2 posts left, but I'm only supposed to have 1 more wire to come in here. And I realized, oh, wait a sec. Well, I've now got my mistake fixed. This post right here has nothing on it because this is going to be jumping over to this side. And all the other ones do have a post. So this is the positive side of this cell. It's getting one. And then the next negative in this battery will not. Nearly done with the wiring. All the little red wires are the voltage sense wires. And then I have some of this 10 gauge silicone wire jumping from pack to pack to create the series connection. In here is where I'll finally come out with a 10 gauge wire and go to the BMS. And I'll have to come off this as my main positive. I put a little positive symbol there. That's my main positive for the entire pack. This wire here is for a BMS, and that's going to go up here. And the BMS is going to sit right on top of the battery. And this one over here is also for another BMS, which will go there. Now I've attached a positive wire already, and I've left quite a bit of slack in this one, probably 3 feet or so. And I need to do the same thing over on this battery. So if I take off this cover, the negative wire from the battery jumps to the next side. But right here is the main positive wire of these 3 modules, this larger 48 volt battery. So we have our main positive. It needs to come up through here, jump through the lid, and have enough slack to get to the central bus. So that's what we need to do right now. So this is the wire that I'm using, and this is Benthigo from Amazon, and I like it. It's very fine strand silicone coating. I'll leave a link to all the stuff that I use from Amazon in the description below. But I just need to make sure that I have enough slack. So right here I'm kind of just lining these up, and this is where I'll snip it. I'm going to make all of them come to the same point, and now I can basically on this side of it, I'm going to tape it off just like I did on this, because this wire right now is connected into the battery and I don't want this shorting out on anything. So I'm going to tape off this end before I attach the other end of the wire. What I like to do is take a little piece and fold it over the very end, and then I can kind of wrap this on coming down. Now I'm using these ring terminals. I had them left over. If I was buying the ring terminals brand new, I would have bought some that might have had an open barrel, I think is what the term is called, where it doesn't have the sheath on here, but the 2 parts kind of come up. Anyways, let's pull this off. Ring terminal part. So I'm going to use a little flux on here, little flux in the ring terminal. There we go. Alright, so those 2 are now together. I like this ratcheting crimp tool. It makes a nice crimp, but it is meant for that open barrel design. So it takes quite a bit of force to press that in because it's not exactly meant for it, but now that's a really tight connection there. I really like the way that kind of crimps down the 2 sides. Feel free to tell me how to improve my soldering skills, because I'm no expert at soldering. So now we have one end taped off and one end with a ring terminal that is both crimped and soldered. Now what we can do is fish it through the hole. These holes originally had much larger wires on them, so they certainly fit. Now I can grab the screw with one finger, put it through here. And now again, I'm going to come in here and I'm holding on to that for dear life. Don't want any explosions. So there we go, just screwing that positive on. I'm going to get it down a little bit. And now I can arrange this so basically it can come off in this direction coming backwards, because that's where the hole is to come out. So I'm aiming it towards that hole. Nice and snug. Okay, so now I just have to arrange this, and I kind of pull on these a little bit, pull on the wires. I want to make sure that I'm pulling as much slack out of the box as possible. And I don't want to pinch anything. Here we go. Got the cover on. I can just throw my screws in. So we have our main negative over here, which is listed in black, and then over on the other side, our main positive. So we can go through and check all these, as well as check our main negative and positive on the battery module itself. So here I got the wire into the main negative of the pack. Then over here on this side we have the main positive of the pack. 48.6. Alright. I'm not going to get any voltage on the first pin because that is connected to the main negative. And then the next pin we're going to start going down the line. 2.2. And if I've hooked everything up in correct order, we're going to see that. I always check these before I plug it into the BMS. Otherwise I'm going to blow the BMS out. Alright, so now down here at this end, we have to move to the next set. So we have to, they're going to be lined up just like this. Notice they're facing the same direction. So now we jump to the next pin. There it is. 37. 39. 42. 44. 46. And last pin, 48.6. So that worked perfect. All of these are in the correct order. And our main positive and negative wires are correct. So everything is good. So there's nothing else internally inside these modules that I need to do. Now these wires right here, this positive and negative, as well as this little BMS wiring harness, these are snagging 2 cells from this module and 2 cells from this module. These will actually jump down to the next row where they're going to parallel up. I've got some more modules right there, and these are going to jump down to that. So what I'd like to do is solder on. So on one side we have this. Now it's labeled as a P. Some BMSs that is labeled as a C in Charlie. And over here is B in Bravo. The Bravo side goes to the battery. The P side goes out to the loads or whatever else you need to do. This is a common port. sometimes you can have two coming off. One would be for the load and one would be for the charger. In this case, that's going to be the same thing. So the inverter charger. So just like I have some long 3-foot long wires here, these give me enough slack so I can go to the circuit breakers. I need to do the same thing here so I can reach the bus bars on this side. This side I need to kind of attach right here. So this is what I used last time. It is a heat shrink with adhesive and a low melt solder. So you just apply the heat gun and it melts it. And it came in this little kit. Now several of you were concerned about doing that, so I thought, hey, this time around let's try something different. Now I don't want to just take these two wires from the BMS and the wire from the battery, and I could just put a wire nut on there, but quite frankly I don't think that's the best option with this fine strand wire here. So I'd like to try a different method this time around. I bought a couple of packs of these ground crimp connections, and these are from Home Depot, and they're like $5 to $7 each for a pack, something like that. I bought two different sizes because I don't know what size I'll need, but here's the little crimp sleeve. I'm going to need to support these, so I'm going to put a piece of plywood down and kind of raise this up because I don't have enough slack in this wire to come all the way down to the workbench. Alright, I have a bigger piece of heat shrink, so we'll put that on. And I'm going to have to try this. Here's the BMS. Try getting these together. I don't know if this is going to work well or not, so it's an experiment. But let's get some flux on there. Oh, alright, so I just can't seem to get them on there when, you know, you push the two and they kind of go like that. So I'm sliding them past each other like this. And so that actually got on there. With the two slid past each other, I was able to fit it on. Woohoo! Yay! I'm going to use this fitting right here. Crimp. Okay. So now they shouldn't come apart if I pull on them. Nope. Good. So let me know in the comments below if you guys prefer the low melt solder with heat shrink already attached, nice and quick and easy, or if you guys kind of like using these copper crimp sleeves. The BMS came with 10 gauge and I am using 10 gauge attached. Both of these 10 gauge wires though are high temperature silicone coated, fine strand, tinned copper, whatever. They're pretty good quality wire. Although given that this BMS says 60 amps on it, you would think they'd use a little bit thicker wire, but that's what we're using. It is a relatively short distance that we're traveling here. Nice, and yeah, this tip is getting destroyed. I don't know how to make tips last a long time. We're gonna find out if I can heat it enough. Yeah, I'm still holding this on here, and the heat is just getting sucked out. This is really fat. I mean, number 10 wire is really quite a bit for this application. Ah, man, the wire feels wicked hot. Yeah, I mean, that wire is really, really hot. And I hope that I'm not damaging any of the circuitry inside there, because I had to hold that soldering iron on there for so long. That really makes me nervous. Let's put the heat shrink on. Yep, I'm in the center. Good. And squeeze the daylights out of it. So last time I didn't like the way I had to hold this on there for a really long time. I'm worried about adding too much heat internally to the BMS. So I'm going to use a little different technique this time. Let's try it with a torch. So I just cut off a little bit of solder. And let's see, let's wrap this solder on here. Alright, so I just wrapped the solder around. So that I have about 3 or 4 wraps on each side. Okay, we're going to try a torch this time. Had a bit of scorching on the sides. Good news is I can still hold on to this wire down here towards the BMS. I could not do that on this blue one. It was too hot. So it was hotter, concentrated for a shorter period of time. And now I'm actually feeling the heat starting to transfer down and dissipate. So I don't know which is better there. Yeah, I had a little bit of scorching. That's not as good, but it definitely didn't transfer as much heat to the BMS as last time. So not as pretty to use the torch. It did scorch that thing, but it did melt the solder much faster. Well, building this Powerwall has been a whole lot of fun, and I did try to squeeze it into one video, but this is just taking too long, so I'm going to cut it here, and I'll split it into 2 videos. In the next video, you'll see me mount these up on the wall, and I will wire them all to the common bus bars and circuit breakers. So that will be a lot of fun. But this is about 66 pounds at this point, so that'll be fine to lift and put on the wall. So thank you everybody very much for watching. If you enjoy the videos, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and check out some of the links in the description below if you would like to help support the channel. Thank you.